I had some internet problems there. So, okay, we are going to start officially. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste, assalamu alaikum. We will begin our program today by extending our condolences to the family and friends of Dr. Lakshmi Prasad, a novelist who was born in Trinidad but who lived for decades in England. Among many of Lakshmi Prasad's novels is Butterfly in the Wind, published in 1990, which has gone through about 6 reprints. I think the book was also used in the high school and at university in the literature syllabus. Lakshmi Prasad was 87 years old, and we missed that opportunity to interview her in our Conversations with Elders series. But we have now introduced the Living Legend series, and hopefully we would not miss other icons like her. And again, we wish to extend our sympathies to the family of Sylvie Ali Mohammed, who passed away 1 year ago, exactly 1 year ago, this being today. She was the mother of Shalima and Shakira, who are here. One being the moderator, the next person being the chairperson. Sylvie's entire life was one of devotion to Almighty God, her husband, children, grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren. Among the many lessons she instilled in her children is that they must pursue education seriously, which all of them have done successfully. So in tribute to their mother, Ravin will now play this song. Ravin?
नैन तुम्हारे मजेदार ओ जनाबे आली, नैन तुम्हारे मजेदार ओ जनाबे आली।
हमको तुमसे है प्यार ओ जनाबे आली, हमको तुमसे है प्यार ओ जनाबे आली।
नैन तुम्हारे मजेदार ओ जनाबे आली। प्यार किया तुमसे क्या हमने गुनाह किया, प्यार किया तुमसे क्या हमने गुनाह किया, आपके इशारों पे खुद को तबाह किया। बनते हैं हम ही गुनहगार ओ जनाबे आली, नैन तुम्हारे मजेदार ओ जनाबे आली।
हमको तुमसे है प्यार ओ जनाबे आली।
नैन तुम्हारे मजेदार ओ जनाबे आली,
हमको तुमसे है है प्यारो जनाबे अली
नैन तुम्हारे मजेदार ओ जनाबे आली
हमको तुमसे है प्यारो जनाबे अली
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for paying tribute to my mommy. That was Mommy and Daddy's wedding song. So thank you again. And despite all the trials and tribulations of marriage, whenever she got angry at him, we would play that and sing it with her for him. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, good night, or good morning to all of you. We are pleased to have so many people in this meeting from all over the world in different time zones. I am Shakira Mohammed from Trinidad and Tobago, a teacher for the past 15 years, and this is our 191st edition of our Zoom public meeting. We wish to sincerely thank all of you who have contributed in whatever way to the success of this ongoing Pan-Indo-Caribbean and Pan-Indian Diaspora Global Project. For 190 unbroken continuous weeks, we have been here every single Sunday. And in the past 3 years, 11 months, and 2 weeks, we have featured 801 presenters from all parts of the world, speaking on 190 topics. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a weekly forum being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center, a legally registered research and publishing company operating since 2010. And in order to continue this weekly program and to make it bigger and better, we are kindly asking for suggestions as well as volunteers and donations, and you can contact Dr. Mahabir for details. So tomorrow will be a historic day in India and the Indian diaspora. Tomorrow, the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya will be inaugurated in Uttar Pradesh, from where most of our great-grandparents came during indentureship. And we wish to God's blessings to the celebrations. I will now introduce our moderator for this evening or tonight, who is Shalama Mohammed, the co-director of this Zoom platform, who is a business teacher and researcher from Trinidad and Tobago. She obtained her master's degree in business psychology from Franklin University in the USA. Shalama, welcome. You able to meet me?
I think I'm unmuted now. Yes, thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Namaste, and a very warm welcome to you all. Thank Dr. Mahabir. I want to say thank you very much for your memoriam to our dear mummy. She would have really appreciated that song. It always brought delight to her. It's something she and Dad always remembered. So, ladies and gentlemen, our meeting today will take the form of a panel presentation, followed by questions and comments from members of the audience at the end. We should be here for about 2 hours. This meeting is being recorded live and will be uploaded later on YouTube permanently for posterity. And we are live streaming on the YouTube channel of the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center. So welcome to all of you on YouTube at this time. And thank you all so much for your condolences. To avoid intrusions from trolls, Ravan Ram Singh has muted everyone. Speakers, I'll ask you, please do not admit anyone, do not unmute anyone, and do not allow anyone to share your screen, please. Thank you so much. Our topic today is Indian culture in French-speaking Martinique and Guadeloupe in the Caribbean. These two countries are often mistaken as being Caribbean islands of blacks and whites, and a mixture of people and cultures from Africa and Europe. However, both countries are indeed partly Indian, and their cultural traditions are proof of this diversity. Most of the Indian immigrants come from South India, unlike those of the English and Dutch-speaking countries in the Caribbean who came from North India. It is remarkable that they've been able to maintain their cultural practices after being cut off linguistically from most of India and other Indian diaspora countries. During indentureship, Hindu and Muslim practices were forbidden, and conversion to Roman Catholicism was compulsory. However, Indians have kept to their traditional faiths by creatively syncretizing Hindu, Muslim, and Christian religious practices. So what are some of the rituals in which they participate today? Which Indian languages do they speak? What types of drums do they beat, and to what extent are deities recognized? We hope to get some answers to these questions and more. Let me introduce our first speaker, and this is a Trinidadian, Mr. Bob Ramlu. He is one of the foundation members of the National Council for Indian Culture in Trinidad and Tobago. But we've asked him to speak because he's the recipient of several awards, including one from the Global Organization of People of Indian Origin for the promotion of Indian culture in Martinique. He's visited there several times, as well as Guadeloupe, and has extensive knowledge about Indians in both countries. So, Mr. Ramru, go ahead, please. You have 10 minutes for your presentation.
We have started a connection between Martinique and Guadeloupe when Oliver Munsami came to study in Trinidad. He met the founders, one of the founders, Nasulu Ramaya, and invited him to come across. So around 1996 or 7, Devkinan Sharma led a group of singers and entertainers to Martinique and to Guadeloupe. And that's where we started the connection between those two countries. So in Martinique, we have Lucen Sakrabani. In Guadeloupe, we have Oliver Munsami, Fred Negret, Pandit Elish Hizalu, and a couple others. And we have bound a strong relationship over the years. They come to Trinidad for Diwali Nagar, and they invite us to perform on any occasion they've had. One of the biggest program we have in 1998, when Guadeloupe celebrated 150th anniversary. And I had the opportunity to take with me Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, who was the Attorney General at that time. There were more than 25,000 people attended this function. There was street dancing, 3 or 4 days program, very successful, and we were really welcome, highly welcome in Guadeloupe. So the strong relationship has started and has continued until this day. In Martinique, it's about the same. In 2006, I took Dr. Brinsley Samaru with me to deliver the Fiji address at their 150th anniversary also. And more than 3,000 people attended that function with tassa, dance, song, and music. The fantastic presentation, and almost all the Indians in Martinique came out to witness this program in the city of Trinity. So the link is very strong between these two countries, and more or less on a weekly basis, we communicate with each other. What are our plans or invitations, that sort of thing. So we always stand by. We have tried getting the Indian government to assist. The 1 year, the Sharma, the foreign minister, came to Guadeloupe and we discussed this invitation. He promised to make a contribution, but nothing came out of it. That's how with politicians, right? But the link with Trinidad and these countries is very strong, and we're very grateful to lend our hand. I must say we also send tutors to Guadeloupe, like Sandra Sukhdev and group. Anik Kargwa was one of our first students. Anik has now has her own group in Guadeloupe, and I see now in St. Martin. So kudos to Anik. We're very happy to see you participating in St. Martin. In Guadeloupe, there are many, many dance groups now. In Martinique, very few. Earlier this year, they celebrated their 150th anniversary in Martinique at the Cultural Science Center in Martinique. It's a large program, more than 1,000 people. What is noticeable is that most of the people who attended were non-Indians. There's a small Indian population. More than 80% of there were Africans attending the Indian program, and the others were mixed. So Lucen Sakrabani must be congratulated for doing a splendid job in promoting Indian culture in Martinique. our links, as I said, are very strong. Every year or every other year. This year I was there in May this year, and Gopia International had a dinner reception for me, and I was awarded a Gopia International Award. So I thank them very much for their appreciation. I've been there more than 25 years in Martinique and Guadeloupe. So I want to thank very much the people of Martinique and Guadeloupe. We have also had students come in to Trinidad to learn dance. Sandra Supte was one of the tutors, and then Rana and Susan Mohib from Gasperlo. They hosted many of our students from Guadeloupe come here to train in Bharatanatyam and all other art forms. So you see the connection here between these countries, that we play our part in the absence of the French government, the French administrators. So Trinidad has been playing its part in assisting these countries. I want to thank especially Sir Hans Hanuman Singh, who has continued this relationship with these countries and who has been a guiding light for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amrup. Quite a good summary there, and we see the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago and Martinique in particular. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Let me introduce you
Could I add a few
now
things, please?
to our second speaker. Yes, I'd like to introduce our second speaker now, who is Jan Zobda. He is a Chief Financial Officer in a company working with the Ministry of Education in Martinique and is the Secretary of Gopio Martinique. He lived in Paris until 2022 and returned to Martinique to reconnect with his Indian cultural roots. Now, Jan will be presenting on behalf of both Lucien Sakarabani and Jocelyn Sakarabani Tele. Let me introduce them to you. So Lucien is a former president of Gopio Martinique and defender of the Indian patrimony of Martinique. She's the author of a book on her great-grandmother entitled Story of Cinema and Minachi. Jocelyn is a librarian who's quite passionate about promoting Indian culture in Martinique. She's a former member of the Cultural Association Martinique Inde and president of Gopio since January. Jan is better at speaking English than both these ladies, and so he will be doing the presentation on their behalf. Jan, go ahead, please. I hope you're able to unmute.
Yes, he's unmuted. Oh, we're not hearing.
Correct.
Maybe he has.
Jan, we're not hearing. Jan, can you check your audio, please?
Something with his setting.
He was coming across clearly previously.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we can go for the next speaker.
Jan, I'm sorry, we're still not hearing you clearly.
So maybe
Can
we
you
can.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I will
Yes.
do it from Lucien's computer.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. So since
You want to
time is
turn
of
on
the
your
essence,
video,
I will get
perhaps?
right to it. The Indian immigration started during the 19th century in Martinique. 55 boats brought roughly 25,500 Indians in total between 1853 and 1883 to work in the sugarcane fields in order to replace the very recently freed slaves which for context, slavery was abolished in Martinique on May 22nd, 1848. So the first Indian workers arrived roughly 3 years afterwards. As a result, the slavery practices were still very fresh on the mind of the estate owners. Of these 25,509 Indians that came, 15,425 died during the journey, which translates to roughly a 60% death rate. Indeed, the journey from India to Martinique was a very lethal one for the unprepared and very mistreated populations on board, lasting more than 3 months in very dangerous weather conditions, enduring cold, storms, hurricanes, you name it. Some ships didn't make it to Martinique altogether, sinking at sea, and the ones that did make it, a significant percentage of the crew would die during the journey due to the downright inhumane traveling conditions, with abuse, malnutrition, infections, and diseases, with a death rate of around 30% per ship. These people came from different parts of India, but mostly from the French comptoirs, Karikal, Pondicherry in the Tamil Nadu region, Chandranagar in the Occidental Bengal, Yanaon in the Andhra Pradesh, and a little bit from Kolkata. Many came willingly, lured by the prospect of a better life and the opportunity to escape a fate dictated by caste. With the demand for manpower increasing in the colonies, they started abducting women and children also. That's the story of Lucien's great-grandmother, who got abducted while still a young teenager, and she talks about it in her book. Once they arrived and started working, they were paid around 12 francs a month for the men, 10 francs per month for the women, and 5 francs per month for the children. To give you an idea, that's less than €1 today for 1 month's salary. Working from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with a 30-minute lunch break, they would work pretty much the whole week, since they would be in the fields from Monday to Saturday and tend to the cattle on Sundays. 11,951 Indian workers got the opportunity to go back to India. The last that got to go back to the motherland left Martinique in 1900. The remaining ones were left stranded in Martinique, having to create a life for themselves in this foreign land, cut off from their roots and families. These Indian workers came with their cultural identity, dances, culinary customs and spices, plants, religious beliefs, and their way of life as a whole, which they clung to, even though they would end up becoming an integral part of the Martinique society. Despite facing racism, prejudice, and abuse, they would end up eventually fully integrating and even injecting many elements of their culture in the fabric of Martinique. From the spices used in cooking, the recipes, to the last names of some very well-known families here, and some Indian words becoming part of the commonly used slang, the Indian heritage is to this day very strong and a big part of the collective identity in the French Caribbean. And I would also add that nowadays, with yoga and Ayurveda being such, I would say, trendy in the collective minds, the Indian influx is more than ever very vivid in our French islands. So that's it for our presentation. We can elaborate if you guys have questions afterwards. I wanted to make it short and straight to the point, but we can always elaborate on any points of the presentation if you want afterwards.
Excellent, Jan. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, please hold your questions until the end. We'll have all of our speakers, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask your questions. So thank you very much, Jan.
Okay, thank you.
Let me introduce our third speaker, and this is Fabrice Subdan. He worked in most of the Caribbean islands in public works and shipping. He's also a member of GOPIO with Olivier Ramier as a public relations officer for the Caribbean. Welcome, Fabrice. You can go ahead.
Thank you, everybody. In Guadeloupe is a slight difference between Martinique. In Guadeloupe, there is 93 convoy from 1854 to 1889. This is under 35 years, and the total was 43,350. The first boat arrived in December 1954. The name of this boat was Loreley, and 320 Indians arrived. There is 6 deaths on board, so that means 314 arrived really in Pointe-à-Pitre. And the last boat who arrived was the 93 convoy, arrived in March 31, 1889. That was, the name of the boat was the North Bordeaux, and that was a steamer. So the first boat who arrived was sailing boat, and few months after, there was steaming boat who was going faster, and there is less death on them. So
Excuse me, Fabrice.
Yeah.
Do you have a PowerPoint presentation that you'd like to share?
Yeah.
You can go ahead and share screen.
Okay. So we can say per year in Guadeloupe, we were receiving 3 boats per year. Every 3 months, per year, we have 3 boats per year. But the captain, they have to take water, they have to take charcoal, and the most they was passing by the Cap under Africa to come straight to Guadeloupe, and the journey was approximately 3 months. In fact, there will be 43,350 Indian immigrants arriving in Guadeloupe on French colony, and the age was approximately 1 year to 50 years old between women and men, because there is some born babies on board also. So for example, in a city from 1861 to 1885, there will be 3,562 female and 1,331 male on the plantation from 1861 to 1853. So with that, you have the average of male and female was born in Guadeloupe. So I can say there is 19 free convey, and most of them came from, there was Hindu, Brahman, caste of agricultural, caste of craftsman, low caste, some Muslim also, and there is very, very less than 1% of Indian. They came from Pondicherry, Karikal, Madras, Calcutta. And the journey was very hard, and sometimes the boat can take less than 80 days or more than 110 days. So there will be approximately 1%, 83 deaths if the journey was less than 80 days, and up to 3.51 deaths if the journey have more than 100 days. And on the boat, you have some pathology like dysentery, cholera, respiratory disease, skin disease, scorbut, pneumonia, and much more. And on the boat, each person have less than 1 square meter for them, for the entire voyage, less than 1 square meter for them, and 3 liters of water per day to bathe, to drink, and for everything. So it was very terrible. And when they arrive in Guadeloupe, they have to walk from sunrise to sunset, about 15 hours per day, when is the time to cut the sugarcane. And every year, they were giving 2 shirts, 2 pants, 1 cotton jacket, and forehead scarf for the woman. And there is sometime if they was found after the plantation, they were just put in prison, and they must have a writing permission to move from a plantation to another one. And also the medical condition on those convoy, there is no doctor on board because there is some medical officers or apothecary. They were formed by a practical and imitative and repetitive training in the Medical College of Indian Empire. In fact, they were Indian and they have no much medicine on board. So is some soap, some potassium, some acid, and nothing more. And what we can say in total of immigrants arrived was 43,350 in Guadeloupe. And but for now, in Guadeloupe, colonialism and slavery have left painful traces in Guadeloupean society. This unspeakable past, this historical repertory, sometimes missing, are gripping in today's Guadeloupe. The Guadeloupean society is divided between the search for his identity and his attachment for the French society. For now in Guadeloupe, Indians are keen on knowledge and learning. They participate in the perpetuation of their culture. In national education, we have teachers from school, teachers in researches, engineer, pilot, doctors, mathematicians, and computer scientists, and also turn towards to artificial intelligence. In the transport in Guadeloupe, the Guadeloupean Company of Indian origin are the first, and this branch of activity, notably in the transport of goods, material, and also people. 70% of those companies are owned by Indian origin. All our family company, they are working between fathers and children. But also, because Guadeloupe is an archipelago, the Indians are also in shipping company between the island and also between the Caribbean island. On the commercial activity, they are also in wholesale trade, warehouse rental for big company from overseas, which means they are big property owner. Nowadays, Indians are in all sectors of activity in Guadeloupe. So are in distribution of fuel, also in the production of wind energy. Also, the sector of housing and public works remain a major asset for the descendants of Indians. But let's not forget the service of mouth like restaurant and local specialty ready to eat. They are involving a lot. We have a major Indian chef, good restaurant, and they are involving in culinary teaching. Today, we can say that the national dish of Guadeloupe is the colombo or curry, as you know. When Indian became French citizen in 1923, because when they arrived in Guadeloupe, they were still under British government, so they were British. And it's only in 1923 they became French because of a guy, I forget his name, but they started big land and property and established. Pardon?
Sinabarom.
Exactly, Mr. Sinabarom. Is because of this guy we became French, Sinabarom. And this process stayed more than 20 years. And after the First World War, we became French. So in Guadeloupe, Indians start to buy land and property, and they established themselves in land close to the sugar industry. They were working for sugar factory and for themselves in the afternoon after. And like by little and little, they were growing up. Right now, 40% of the agricultural land in Guadeloupe are owned by Indian origin. They produce, processing, and distribute their own vegetable to the other island and ship also to France and Europe. We are also in banana shipped to France. And very late, but yes, Indians are producing rum now, and a lot of small companies start to the rum punch, etc. To finish, I can say Indians are hard workers, and like our ancestors, work is not scary. We came to cut sugarcane 170 years ago, but we did not come in vain. The future belongs to the workers and the respect for each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fabrice. That was a very good overview of the history of Indians in Guadeloupe and how the descendants have actually made an impression on the country today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And maybe Mr. Olivier Munsami want to say something.
Yes, Mr. Munsami has to speak, and perhaps we can bring him in now. Anik, if that's okay with you, I will introduce Mr. Olivier Munsami right now. He's a longtime cultural and political activist in Guadeloupe, elected municipal councillor in the city of Port Louis in Guadeloupe, also a former member of the board of directors of the Guadeloupean Cultural Association of Friends of India in Guadeloupe. He's also a teacher of English and Creole in a secondary school there. Welcome, Mr. Munsami.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you all. So what I would say, before starting what I had planned to say, I will add a few things to what my friend Bob has said about the relationship between Guadeloupe and Trinidad. In fact, it was when I first went to Trinidad as a student. I had a program with Mr. Ramaya, and when I met him, I told him, why not establishing links between Martinique and Guadeloupean Indians? And when I came back to Martinique, because I was studying in Martinique, I met with the president of the association Martinique India, Mr. Ponama. And when I came back to Guadeloupe, I met with that of Guadeloupe, and we decided to establish this contact. And in '88, when the French authorities, the French embassy in Trinidad, with our local assemblies, organized the month of the French West Indies in Port of Spain. And they invited a lot of Martinican and Guadeloupean groups, but they forbade, as usual, unfortunately, they forgave the Indians. And Mr. Ponama, who had a very close link with the local assembly in Martinique, he asked the president, by the way, the president was Camille Darcier, and he asked Mr. Darcier, what about sending a Martinican delegation to this occasion? And by this time, because I was the one who introduced them to the NCIC, he added me to the Martinican delegation, and we went for the first time to the Diwali Nagar in 1988. And then 2 years after, in 1990, we invited NCIC to Guadeloupe. And they came with a big delegation of officials and artists with Kamla Rampersad, Nazimul Khan, Ubi Gupta, and so on. And Anand Yankaran too, who I know is no longer with us. And we organized this, and 1 year later, they were invited in Guadeloupe again by the mayor of Saint-François, Mr. Mutusami, who organized the Festival of Indianity. And from now on, this link started, and they are, as Bob said, they are still live still today. That was the point I wanted to make, and I am a great thought about of a few people like President Hanuman Singh, Deo Sharma, Baliram Kaur Singh, and all the others who were executive members of NCIC by the time. So the second thing I would like to say is that Mr. Zobda and Mr. Subda, I don't have a lot to add about what they said about history, about the conditions, about the origins of the immigrants. What I would just add is that don't forget that we are, by the time, but I think we are still, a French colony. And when French started recruiting its immigrants, it was, as Mr. Zobda said, in the 5 French which they say comptoir, in the 5 French cities of India. But until 1861, they realized that the labor supply was not enough. So they had an agreement with the government of the British authority, the British Crown, to allow them to recruit immigrants in the Indian part. So that's why from this moment, 1861, the indentured laborers started coming from Calcutta so from northern India. This detail is very important, and it can explain how our cultural heritage, which is, of course, mainly based on southern Indian culture, but with also some aspect of northern culture. So we have both southern and northern Indian culture in Guadeloupe now. So that was these details I wanted to add. And as far as today, I think Fabrice Soubdan started about this also. So the struggle for integration to the society is still on. And I think for you in the Caribbean too, although you are already sovereign countries, you are also still struggling for this, for the recognition of what we are, of what we are contributing to our society. So the struggle is still on, and we have to do it every day to make our people understand, to make our people accept that the Guadeloupean people, the Caribbean people, the West Indian people is not only African, that there are also Indian who came and who also contribute to the emancipation, to the building, the construction of the society. And that is where we are now. And a lot of associations exist. A lot of associations try to maintain, to make living this heritage, and we have to pay tribute to them because they are the real actors, the one who are, thanks to whom this heritage is still living. And as Fabrice said, there are Indians in politics, there are Indians in the economic power, there are Indians everywhere, and mostly everywhere, and we have to struggle for this. And now in 2024, what I would like to say also is that, as I said, it was important to understand the origins, the southern origins and northern origins. We came with a very specific tradition, which sometimes some people don't want to accept because they consider it as secondary, they consider it as inferior, because the heritage, the religious practices we brought from India, when I say this, I'm talking particularly about the Hindu goat sacrifice, which many people would like us to abandon. I want to say here that this is our heritage, and we are proud of this heritage because we didn't invent it. Our ancestors came with it from India. And also, we don't condemn, we accept also that with the development of links between Guadeloupe and India, between Guadeloupe and Caribbean and Trinidad particularly, there are more and more Hindus who become what we call Brahmanic Hindus. That's very great too, but that mustn't be done against our heritage. That's what I would like to say to add to what the two Fabrice have said. And maybe later on, if there are questions, if there is a debate, we could add something. But that was what was what I thought was most important to say. Today we are present in the whole country, culturally, politically, economically, and what is ours, the struggle, the real fight is that to make everybody understand here that what is ours, I mean Indians, is theirs too. It's not only ours as Indian, it's Guadeloupean too. And that is a struggle we had to fight for. That I will stop there, and if ever there are any questions or things to add, I think I will be allowed to do it later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Munsami. I'm sorry for the lapse there. I could not unmute my own mic. Excellent presentation. And I'm so glad that you raised all of these facts. Romanic Hindus, I've never heard anything like it. Very interesting. And I hope you elaborate about their practices later on, the goat sacrifices and so on in Guadeloupe. We would love to hear more about that. So thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to our fifth speaker, and this is Anik Raghuber. She's the first Indian dance teacher in Guadeloupe who gave the art form a deserving place and recognition in the Creole society and showed how Indian culture is beautiful and so interesting. Welcome, Anik. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Bonsoir, bonsoir à tous. Je vais m'exprimer en français parce que je sais que je suis accompagnée par Olivier Mounsami en Guadeloupe pour la traduction, ainsi que par Yann en Martinique, notre ami Yann Zobda. Donc, merci beaucoup de m'accompagner. Alors, moi, je vais surtout parler de la danse, de l'importance de la danse, des nadrons, expliquer ce que c'est qu'un nadron et comment, lorsque nos ancêtres sont arrivés sur l'île de Guadeloupe, ils ont pu tenir ce régime qui était très difficile pour eux dans les plantations par rapport à cette danse, cette musique qu'ils avaient emmenée avec eux. Alors, les nadrons...
Anik,
oui.
pardon me for interrupting. Pardon me for interrupting. We have a majority of the audience that's English speaking. And would you mind very much if I ask Jan to please translate while you speak?
Okay, no problem.
Is that okay? Jan, would you mind assisting, please?
Or Oliver can do it too?
Yeah, sure. Either one. Oliver, would you like to? If you can unmute your mic.
I don't mind. Anik just introduced about dances. She said she's going to talk about what we call here nadron. Nadron is from a Tamil origin, a Tamil word, which is a very particular dance. In fact, it is not just a dance. It is a history told during a dance. What we call a nadron. It is like a theater scene. So I let her tell you more about it. It's just mostly the history of deities, of gods we are telling during the whole night through dances. We show through dances all aspects of their life. Allez, vas-y, Yannick. Le micro est coupé.
Hein? Surtout, la plus grande épopée qui a été racontée, qui a été dansée dans les nadrons, c'est celle de Madure Viren. Madure Viren est un héros qui a montré par sa bravoure, par sa force, comment dans l'éducation indienne, on est très attaché à ce que nos divinités nous montrent.
So she says that the most famous Nadron dance is that of telling the story of Madurai Viran. Madurai Viran, which means the hero of Madurai. Madurai is a city in India. And the history of Madurai shows the strength of Indian education, thanks to which you can become someone. And the story from Madurai is this education passing from man to God, if I can summarize very briefly.
Alors, juste pour raconter un petit peu l'histoire de ces nadrons en Guadeloupe, il faut savoir qu'au départ, ce sont seulement les hommes qui dansaient lors de ces soirées théâtrales appelées les nadrons.
When the nadrons were first introduced here, only men could dance. The dancers were only men.
Et ces danses se tenaient toute la soirée, donc du début de la nuit, 18h, jusqu'au lendemain matin, 6h du matin, où on chantait le mangalam. Et pendant toute cette soirée, des danseurs prenaient place pour entrer dans la peau d'un personnage qu'ils représentaient au sein de l'histoire.
The dances lasted a whole night until from the beginning of the evening to the morning, tomorrow morning. And there were a lot of characters. Each of them embodied the life of a deity, of a character in the story, embodied the story of the man, of the character they are telling about.
Mais ces danses qui se tenaient le samedi soir étaient réservées à un public particulier parce qu'elles se tenaient sur les habitations et ne restaient que dans cette zone et étaient entre eux, entre les Indiens, et les personnes qui regardaient ne se sentaient pas impliquées dans cette histoire et ni dans ces nadrons.
It's important to say also that as Fabrice and Jan explained, the condition in which the immigrants lived, these nadrons by the beginning were held only in private places on the plantation place. So the audience was not very large. It was only the people from the plantation, and some of them didn't feel very concerned. They were just there to assist the nadron, but it was not very open dances. It was specific to a particular audience, that of the plantation.
Mais vers les années 70, dans les communes, et en particulier les communes où la population indienne était fortement implantée, on a commencé à voir que les fêtes patronales de communes permettent aux Indiens aussi d'avoir un espace pour exprimer leur danse, leur culture et montrer la beauté de leur spectacle.
We have something called here fête communale, which is the festivities in every city, every year in every city. And from the 1970s, in some in some cities in Guadeloupe, mostly those where there are many Indians, the mayors, when they organize their festivities, they allowed Indians to present these dances during this occasion, on these festivities.
Mais qui est-ce qui organise ces nadrons dans ces communes? Ce sont des familles, des prêtres, des poussaris, comme on les appelle, et chez nous on les appelle les vatiarous, qui ont la connaissance et qui demandent à intégrer cette partie dans la fête communale. Donc, ils prennent position sur un stade, puisqu'il nous faut un espace de verdure avec une pelouse, et donnent à voir ce nadron. Mais ce nadron est toujours, on va dire, une exception dans certaines communes, comme par exemple Port-Louis, qui a donné cette occasion, Bémao, Lamentin. Il y en avait très peu à l'époque. Et voilà pourquoi l'Association des Amis de l'Inde, vers les années 80, décide d'aller de prendre une autre option pour la danse.
So these nadrons were the leaders, those who were organizing this were the priests. She said, you heard Anik says Pusari, that the Tamil word for the priest, and the Vatialus, those who are religious persons who are in charge of organizing the nadron. And she said they needed a very large space to organize this. So mostly it was on a football stadium that these were organized. And as you said, she mentioned also the name of the main cities where these were organized: Port-Louis, Bémao, and Lamentin. That were these cities where there were more Indians, and also Saint-François. That was. And she said that the Association of Friends of India, Association des Amis in Guadeloupe, from the 80s, starting to take another orientation, another landing part two, to stand for with the dances.
Mais jusque-là, la danse indienne est considérée comme une partie religieuse aussi qui entre dans les cérémonies pour les Indiens. Et l'autre partie de la population ne s'y intéresse pas vraiment. Donc, c'est en 1970 qu'une femme a osé amener la danse indienne jusque dans la mairie, c'est-à-dire dans l'espace le plus sacré point de vue administratif dans une commune. C'est la mairie qui représente en quelque sorte l'État.
Until the 1970s, these dances took place only on the religious sites, only in the temples during religious practices. But from the 70s, a lady dared to have these organized in the city hall, which represents the place representing the authorities.
Et elle décide de transporter une séquence de la cérémonie qui est appelée le valset à l'extérieur donc de cet espace cérémonie, et elle l'introduit pendant un moment très important de la fête patronale qui s'appelle le vin d'honneur dans la mairie. Elle offre ce valset qui est composé donc d'une offrande de gâteaux et de boissons, et avec des danseurs habillés, costumés, avec les narets, tous les costumes indiens, pour accompagner cette manifestation. Et dès ce moment-là, la danse indienne entre dans la danse qui devient la danse populaire dans le peuple, dans la fête patronale, qui est une fête pour célébrer tous les aspects de la culture d'une commune.
There is in the dances a part of the dance we called valse. Valse is while they are dancing, they are walking through a place, they have offerings. There are cakes and drinks. And the lady she talked about a while ago, introduced these valse, which were only, we happened to be only in religious sites before. She dared to introduce them in what we call here Vedonneur. Vedonneur is the reception, the official reception, which is organized during the city festival every year. So she introduced this, the dances with all the dancers with the Indian costumes in this public part of the city hall.
Cette femme s'appelle Lavinia Ragouvin et c'est ma grande-tante, c'est elle qui m'a élevée et qui m'a appris, qui m'a transmis cet héritage culturel de la danse et qui me demande de continuer dans cette voie à toujours promouvoir la danse. Et c'est ainsi que lorsque je rentre à l'Association des Amis de l'Inde, je vais ouvrir la première école de danse indienne en Guadeloupe.
This lady, she gave her name, but she was Lavinia Ragouvin, who was Annick's grandfather's sister, so she was her aunt, and she struggled for introducing these dances, and Annick is still nowadays struggling to transmit, to go on doing what this lady has done, as making these dances public dances, popular dances.
Et comme notre ami Bob l'a dit, lorsque l'Association des Amis de l'Inde ouvre son école de danse et que je commence à donner des cours de danse indienne, bien entendu danse traditionnelle, c'est-à-dire les danses issues du sud de l'Inde, de type Kathakali, qui rentrent dans la composition des danses de Nadron, nous allons ensuite faire venir des professeurs de danse de Trinidad, qui ont été nommés tout à l'heure, Sandra Soubdeo, Jennifer Bach, Suzanne Mohib, pour nous apprendre maintenant de nouvelles danses qui sont l'Odissi, le Kathak, le Mohiniyattam.
So when she first opened her school dance with the Association des Amis de l'Inde, Association of Friends of India in the 80s, she started with traditional dances, these traditional dances she just talked about. But later on, she introduced also other dances, modern dances, and other dances, other traditional dances of the Caribbean. And that was possible too, thanks to NCIC, when we have exchanges with dance teachers who came here from Trinidad, and she gave her name, Sandra Sudeo. I don't remember the other names, but you know them better than me.
Et cette ouverture à travers la danse a permis que beaucoup de personnes, avec des personnes d'origine autre que d'origine indienne, soient intéressées par la danse indienne et aient envie de l'apprendre. Donc, à cette école de danse des Amis de l'Inde, nous recevons des jeunes élèves de toute origine et qui se retrouvent à travers la danse faisant partie de cet héritage culturel venu du sud de l'Inde ainsi que des autres contrées indiennes.
This opening to other type of dances, thanks to it, non-Indian dancers joined the association, joined the school dances, and now there are not only Indian dancers who are practicing these traditional Indian dances inherited from the Southern tradition, but there are also non-Indian who practice Indian dances here.
Et avec cet engouement qui arrive pour la danse, bien entendu, autour de la danse, il y a aussi l'apprentissage du drapé de sari. On met en place des défilés de mode. On apprend aux gens à porter les tenues indiennes, les bijoux, le maquillage. Et ainsi, on a une grande ouverture dans la population guadeloupéenne, c'est-à-dire tout cet apport que les Indiens ont amené, qui était encore sous on va dire, sous couvert uniquement de la population indienne, est maintenant vue au grand jour à différents moments. Différentes manifestations sont organisées sur le plan régional, sur le plan aussi communal. Et à chaque moment, il est important de voir que dans le programme, il y a une partie réservée à la danse indienne, à la présentation des tenues, ce qui a permis que chaque année, il y avait un renouvellement de l'engouement pour la danse et tout ce qui entoure la danse.
In addition to just teaching dances, during these classes, they also teach their students not only to dance, but also how to wear the Indian costume, particularly the sari, Indian dress, or particularly the sari, to wear Indian jewels, to do the making up. So this allowed to open it to other people, because it is not only specific to Indians. So there are more and more people interested into these kind of activities.
Et les danses aussi font leur entrée dans les écoles, parce que la danse est une activité physique, est une activité agréable, qui plaît beaucoup et qui permet une entrée facile dans la culture indienne. Donc, dans les écoles, nous sommes appelés, au niveau de l'Association des Amis de l'Inde et des autres associations, parce que de plus en plus d'autres associations donnent aussi des cours de danse et pratiquent la danse, nous sommes appelés dans les écoles pour donner des stages de danse, pour faire des cours de danse et monter des projets culturels, des projets pédagogiques culturels dans les écoles à travers le biais de la danse.
To summarize what Anik just said, is that more and more schools, public schools, asked for organizing these dances in their school, because it is not only just for the sake of dancing, it is also a physical activities, and there are more and more schools which ask for it, and they made a school program with Indian dances in a lot of local schools here.
Et au jour d'aujourd'hui, on retrouve de plus en plus donc d'associations qui se créent pour justement développer un nouvel aspect de la danse. Donc, on a de jeunes associations tenues par de très jeunes personnes entre 20 et 30 ans qui font la promotion de leur façon de mettre en avant la danse maintenant, parce qu'elles ont été faire des stages, parce qu'elles ont appris avec d'autres professeurs, soit en allant à l'extérieur comme à Trinidad, comme en France ou en Inde, et qui maintenant peuvent à nouveau diffuser la danse indienne dans tous les secteurs avec des aspects différents. Donc, on a le Bharatanatyam, on a l'Odissi, on a le Kathak, on a le Mohiniyattam, et on a aussi beaucoup de danses Bollywood qui ont fait leur apparition dans les écoles de danse.
So there are more and more dance teachers who go abroad, either in France or even in India, to train themselves to become real teachers, dance teachers, and they not only teach local traditional dance, but also traditional dance, but Bharatanatyam, Odissi, and there are more and more a demand for Bollywood dances.
Mais je tiens à dire que la danse traditionnelle, la danse de nos ancêtres, cet héritage particulier que nous avons gardé, que nous souhaitons garder et transmettre aux jeunes populations après nous, elle est toujours présente et elle le sera toujours. D'ailleurs, comme vous pouvez le constater sur le flyer qui a fait l'annonce de notre échange cet après-midi, vous allez voir qu'il y a 3 danseuses. Une qui est au centre, ce qu'elle porte sur la tête, c'est le moudi. C'est le port du moudi, le naret principal du ponvesson, qui est une danseuse centrale du nadron.
Although we are open to other kinds of dances, modern dances and so on, she said that we are very, it's very important for us to keep our heritage, traditional heritage dance. And she said that if you look at the invitation of this program today, when we look at the picture, you will see the 3 dancers on top of their head. there is a particular device we call the nare, which is inherited from the traditional Indian dance. So just to show you, to tell you that our traditional dance is valuable, and even if we accept, we are open to others, but we want to keep it preciously.
Parce que cette danse traditionnelle, elle est un héritage culturel, mais elle est aussi une éducation. C'est à travers cette danse traditionnelle que nous éduquons notre jeunesse à respecter les valeurs de l'éducation indienne que nous avons reçues de nos ancêtres.
Tu peux répéter, j'ai raté.
Oui, alors je disais que cette danse traditionnelle, elle est importante qu'on la transmette à notre jeune génération parce qu'à travers cette danse traditionnelle, nous leur inculquons les valeurs de l'éducation indienne que nous avons reçues de nos ancêtres.
Through the teaching of these traditional dances, there will also the teaching of educative values transmitted by our ancestors. So that was only for the sake of teaching dance. There is a whole education process in this dance teaching.
Et cette danse traditionnelle, elle est intimement liée à la cérémonie, celle qui se fait dans les chapelles. Chez nous, on ne dit pas tellement temple, on dit plutôt chapelle. Et après la cérémonie donc de la chapelle, très tôt le matin, lorsque nous continuons le partage, puisque la fête se termine par un partage du repas, autour de ce partage de repas, cette danse traditionnelle, elle est présente et c'est elle que nous mettons en avant parce que c'est elle qui fait le lien avec les divinités et avec le fondement de notre hindouisme en Guadeloupe.
She says this traditional dance mustn't be separated from the religious part. It is strictly linked to this religious part. She used the word ceremony. What we call ceremony here is what you call the puja. And the ceremony is held in what we call the chapel, that was a temple. So she says that when we go back home after the puja, during the part when we are having we are sharing the meal, there are also dances, traditional dances during this moment.
Oui, ce sont ces danses traditionnelles qui accompagnent les moments importants comme la coupe des premiers cheveux d'un enfant, comme le percement d'oreilles des enfants, et de même que lorsque nous avons aussi une personne décédée, lorsque nous accompagnons cette personne jusqu'au bout, c'est avec cette danse et cette musique traditionnelle du sud de l'Inde.
These traditional dances are present in all the periods of someone's lives, from the beginning, from the birth, when a few days or a few months after the baby's birth, we cut his first hair. We offer it to the divinity, or we put it in a river. But this ritual is done with dances. We have dances also when for the girls, they are putting their first earring. So there is a ritual for this. Also, when there are people who are the deceased in the family during the night, there are also these dances. So they are with us in all during our whole life.
Et justement, en Guadeloupe, nous avons conservé très fièrement cet héritage que nous partageons avec nos amis de la Martinique, puisque lorsqu'il y a des commémorations en Martinique, nous les accompagnons, nous allons avec eux leur présenter justement les nadrons et leur permettre justement de revenir à cette source fondamentale et traditionnelle qu'est la danse de nadrons.
We are proud to keep and share this heritage, and we do it regularly with our friends from Martinique, and regularly there are cultural exchanges with dances with the nadrons, either here in Guadeloupe or in Martinique.
Je vous remercie de m'avoir écouté et
Thank
j'ai
you.
pris plaisir à participer.
So that's it for Anik.
That's it.
Yes. Okay, excellent presentation.
To my friends from
maybe-
Guadeloupe and Martinique, I will ask you if you have something to add in my translation. Maybe I could have forgotten a few things, but it was, it is a very difficult thing to do. So I try to do my best.
I absolutely appreciate it, Oliver. Thank you so much for falling in there, because we have Dr. Ashwat Maharaj, before Anik started, asked whether or not anyone can speak French. And so he got an entire presentation in French. Unfortunately, some of us could not understand. So I so appreciate your translating, really. Excellent presentation. Thank you both. So Dr. Mahavir did not plan to do a presentation. However, he did indeed do some research and would love to be able to share that with you. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Kumar Mahavir to you all now. You all know him as the director of this particular program, and I will welcome him to present.
Thank you very much. So I would not take more than 10 minutes. I will just give you an overview. I visited, I did a magazine based on my visit to Belize, Guadeloupe, and Suriname. And sometime in 2010 or so, I visited Guadeloupe, not Martinique as yet, someday soon. And Shalima, you may want to consider in one of our annual nonprofit tours to these countries that we go to Guadeloupe and Martinique, because now we have newfound friends and family. We have made them part of our ICC family. So this is the magazine that I did. So I'm just going to highlight a few pictures and a few points about Indians in Guadeloupe. And those of you from Guadeloupe and Martinique, please correct me or reinforce what I'm going to say, because it was just a brief visit to Guadeloupe with Mr. Kangal, right? Kanhai Kangal. It was through him that I went, and we stayed at somebody's place, the principal, I can't remember his name. He was a principal of a school. So it's an interesting history about Indians in Guadeloupe and Martinique, right? We have already heard how many of them went and how many of them suffered and how many of them died. And we still have to get the numbers, but at the time that I went, the form constituted only 8% of the population in Guadeloupe. That is 30,000, which is quite a number. And what is remarkable about them is that how they have maintained their Indian cultural practices, but also adapted those practices in a Roman Catholic context, because these countries are essentially Roman Catholic. What's interesting about this group also, these groups from Martinique and Guadeloupe, they came from South India. And unlike most of the indentured immigrants who came to Trinidad, to Guyana and Suriname. And for years, I have been asking people to do research on South Indian cultural retentions in Trinidad, in Guyana, in Suriname. I know studies have been done on the Kali worship. So I divided the magazine. These are pages in the magazine into various themes. These are monuments and symbols and so on. And Fred Negrit, who is there, who is one of the activists and leaders and teachers of Hindi and Indian language, Tamil and so on, he's standing next to a statue of Henry Sidam Boram, I think. And so he was supposed to speak today, but he's not well. He has the virus that is going around. And there is a Indian arrival day symbol on the bottom right. You can correct me if I am wrong. And also on the left, right? These are symbols that have been newly, recently established. Then there are a lot of people and institutions that promote Indian culture in Guadeloupe. Many people in the middle and upper classes. So you see here, there's a store that sells a lot of Indian clothes. There are a lot of association. Fred Negrit Association is called the Association Caribbean for Expression of Indian Languages. And there are a lot of Indian organization that I found when I visited in Guadeloupe, the Hare Krishna movement and all kinds of Indian groups. Okay, so then you have a lot of temples, of course. And it's amazing for such a small population, you have about 500 Hindu temples in Guadeloupe, private and public. And this is a major one there in the big picture. And there are private ones, as you can see. Not many of them are elaborate as you would find in these bigger islands like Trinidad, Guyana, Suriname, but a strong South Indian influence, right? And you can see they have the Jandi and so on there, and the murtis on top of these temples. And it's a different design. Look at these Jandis. You hardly find Jandis in these countries, diaspora countries like that. And Anik mentioned that a lot of paraphernalia that you'll find, which amazingly, it's a mixture of Hindu, Muslim, and Christian objects and rituals and rites and beliefs. So they have been really at the forefront of synthesizing or syncretizing all of these traditions. And you can see this, I heard just now Anik mention it was chapel. So they have imbibed and appropriated a lot of the Catholic terms. So this is a mixture of Catholic, Hindu, and Muslim. And I went there, I took a lot of photographs. I have hundreds of photographs. I have notes, I have recordings and all that. And these are some of the deities and some of the offerings. Anik showed pictures of the banana and the apple and so on, and the deer and all of these murtis, mainly South Indian, which you would hardly see in Trinidad, and I guess Guyana and Suriname. And what was amazing to me is the sacrifice of animals, right? As you can see, this guy holding a rooster. Look, on top there's a goat, and they paint the national colors and so on. So during a Sunday when I went, as this puja and a lot of offerings. I don't know if it's still done to that extent, but because I know in Trinidad there was a lot of criticism about animal sacrifice. So a lot of the Kali worshippers no longer do blood sacrifice. They offer fruits instead of coconuts.
But in Guadeloupe, it's still done.
Yes, okay, that's nice to hear. An amazing tapu drum. Now you can find a tapu drum only in the Kali Mai temples and ceremonies in Trinidad. So here they are the Kali, the tapu drums, and here they are consecrating the bamboo that they use. You can see just like in Trinidad, a Jandi, before they install it. But what is remarkable, I don't think any country in the Indian diaspora has done that. They have taken the national flag and made it into a Jandi, right? So they have appropriated it. So just as typical in Trinidad, just as I have a Jandi flag with Hanuman and Shiva and Lakshmi and so on, you have a national flag, which is really amazing. I like that. I like it. And they have, yes, they have their own dishes, which they have invented or reinvented, the Multani curried goat head. And look at these people here. You would see that if you don't speak to them, you would never know that they're from Guadeloupe or Martinique. They look just like us. And the traditions and the rituals and so on are just like us. So at the feast on the Sunday that I went, you see a lot of chickens, a lot of goat. It's so big, they have huge pots and they cook in the yard because the kitchen is too limited. It's a big event where people can go and eat the belly full, as we would say, on a Sunday. And I participated. I was pity nobody took a picture of me there when I was sitting, and I was sitting on a leaf, eating lots of meat. But interestingly,
It was a banana leaves.
banana leaves, right? Quite so. interestingly, they have wine, the French tradition. So you eat the meat, you eat the aloo, chana, rice, curry, and so on. And you have the bottle of red wine served to every 4 or 5 guests. So it's a lot of wine to drink. French wine. And a lot of people of all races come, as you can see in the photo. Right. Then yes, there is the Monday. There is so much food, because look at the number of goats and the number of chickens and hens and cocks and so on, roosters, that there is left over. So there's a feast on a Monday. So people say are going to a Monday, which is the name of the feast. So it's not just a feast on a Monday. Songs are rendered in Tamil. Music is played with the cymbal, the talams, and matalams, as the drums, and there are dances. So it's a ceremony, it's not only a feast, right? So Shalima, we have to go there next year, I think. Please put that down.
That is, Dr. Mahabir, on this
Yes?
picture, you can see me and my daughter dancing.
Yes, I remember.
Yes, this is the valse, what I told
Yes.
about just now. Yes.
Yes, 2010 or somewhere like that. Good, good, yes. So then I'm almost to the end. And oh yes, well, we must have a little lime and so on, as we say, a little fete. So here's Fred in the middle there by the river. We went and we had drinks. I saw Bawande there and all kind of bushram and locally made drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholics. So this is a picnic, and they had chairs and so on. And we had a good time. You can see Kanhai is there with the cap, white cap, and the striped jersey. He was there, so I went with him, and we stayed. So it is, these are remarkable people, is that they have retained all the traditions, even Muslim tradition. But that flag, that Jandi flag that I showed, the tall one, it represents a Muslim saint. What's the name of the saint with the flag, Anik? More something.
Name is Nagur Mira.
Nagur Mira. Nagur Mira
Nagur
is,
Mira.
yeah, Muslim saint, Muslim.
Muslim.
So I think that is it, Shalima. So, others can talk and, add to what I say or detract from what I'm saying. It's open to comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for adding value. You summarized very much the Guadeloupe presentations, and I want to thank you for doing that. And for also raising that there is a Muslim element to some things in Guadeloupe. And I would really like someone to answer that question. One of our Guadeloupe speakers, if you can just let us know whether there are indeed masjids there, and what is the population of Muslims, because we can definitely see that there are Hindus, we can definitely see that there are Christians. What is the population of Muslims among the Indians in Guadeloupe? So at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, before we invite anyone to give responses, I want to thank all of our speakers. You all did an absolutely fantastic job in pulling this thing together. And we really appreciate understanding now Indians in Martinique and Guadeloupe. And yes, we will be planning an ICC tour there. So Shani, go ahead, start working on your visa to go. And we will link up and let you all know when. So at this point in time, please, if you have not done so before and you would like to ask a question or make a comment, we invite you to go to the reactions button, click on the raised hand icon, and we'll be able to call upon you. Jay has a question. Go ahead, please, Jay. I think Jay needs to be unmuted.
Yeah, we unmuted him.
Oh, thank you. Wow. It brings me back to my growing days in South Africa, because the Hindu group was also consisting of South Indians, and South Indians also came in as indentured laborers. And to see what was presented by Sister, what's her name?
Anik.
Anik. was fantastic because my mother, did all those prayers that they're doing there. And being of a family with a grandfather that built temples, I'm proud and I'm regretful that I didn't visit Guadeloupe properly when I went through on a cruise ship. And we spent a day in the port. And the first thing they said, don't venture very far into the community. And they didn't have tours to go and see the community. So this was a presentation that brings back a lot of memories. And being a South Indian, we came from Tamil Nadu to Kerala, and from what they call it, Tanjore, where my grandfather came from, and knowing the Indians were in Pondicherry and in other parts of Bengal, and the French had possession there. So to see them here doing all those, and you talk about the Jandi, we called about the Janda, that was in Hindustani speaking people's homes. But when the time we raised the flag to Kalima and the Durga Puja and so on, we had a red flag also. So my mother did it every year, was sort of with Kali, because she was, they say, the daughter of Kali. And that is how so all the deities that we pray to, you keeping it alive, and it makes us proud and makes me proud because I didn't realize that Guadeloupe and Martinique had people like me in that community. So the next time I come on a cruise, I don't know when that's going to be. I've got few years to live. I will definitely get out of the ship and go into the community, and I'll make contacts before I get there.
Don't
And
come on the
Excellent,
cruise.
Jay.
ICC
Thank you
is
so
going.
much.
I'd love to go with it.
Excellent, Jay. You could always join us on the ICC tour.
Yeah,
We
that'll
would
be
love to
great.
see you.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
It will
Thank
be
So,
a
you.
good
Olivia, would
pleasure.
you like to respond first?
It will be a good pleasure for me to share this part of Guadeloupe with you at your next visit in Guadeloupe. So
Thank you.
you can come and teach. Thank you.
I noticed that Mr. Zobda raised his hand before me. So if he can answer, he can talk before me. So I will add a few things later. I had a few remarks to do about what Dr. Mahabil said.
Okay, sure. Jan?
I think Jan has to use another laptop
Microphone.
because
Olivia, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. So a few things. When Dr. Mahabil talked about syncretism, I think what we said before about the particular history of our Indian immigration here, we have something to keep in mind is that we are in a French colony by the time. And in the French colony, who is leading the colony? We have the planters, but we have also the Catholic Church. So when the indentured laborer arrives here, he is no more Indian. He must be absolutely French, and with what all that means. So being French and being a Catholic. So it's almost compulsory to go to the Catholic Church. So that can help you to understand why what I read in Mr. Mahabil's book when he says the Indian is Catholic in the Catholic Church and is Hindu in his Hindu temple. So this can be explained by history, by the fact that the religion of the master, the religions of the political leader of the country, of the authorities, must be the religion of the Indians. And about the flag, the French flag can be seen only on the Nagod Mira's mast, not on the other temples. for the Mahabil, Hanuman, and Kalimai, we have red flags. So it is only for this, and I will let Anik explain the story of Nagormira. What I will just say, one of the explanation of this French flag is that according to the Hindu beliefs, which is called the Kalapani rules, which forbade to cross the sea to go to another country. So as Hindus, it is said that they had to thank God to allow them to cross the country. So they couldn't thank the Hindu gods. So they, due to the history of Nagormira in the city of Nagaur in India, with his history, they thought the opportunity to thank him. So that's why it's a mixture of Muslim and Hindu practice with the flag and with no deity, no picture. That's what I wanted to say about the flag. So about also, Mr. Mahabil told about something very important, is that we created dishes. And this can be understood very easily. As I said, Trinidad, most of the West Indian colonies where Indians were imported, there you were, as India, you were British colonies. So there was a kind of, there was no break of the link with India. So for us, for the French territories, since they arrived in Guadeloupe or in Martinique, any link with India was broken. So for instance, what you call dal couldn't be found here. So they had to create something which looked like dal. So they created what we call dal, but which is not the simple lentil you call dal, but it is a mixture of pumpkin and curry and lentils. So for instance, the tulsi plant, which is used in the church, the temple, couldn't be found. So they used another plant which looks like the tulsi plants. And there are a lot of examples like this. What you call the roti, we have also the roti, but it is not the same thing that yours, because we didn't have all the ingredients, all the materials to make the same roti. So of course we have to create a few things. We have to create a few things, but with in mind the model they left in India. And so it is very important to understand all this, to understand that the French influence, the Catholic influence, is not only a simple influence, it was almost compulsory. And this will help you to understand why Dr. Mahabil uses a very appropriate word of syncretism. Our Hinduism, I think the others will agree with me. Our Hinduism is specific to our country. Guadeloupean Hinduism is not Martinican Hinduism, is not Indian Hinduism, is not Trinidadian Hinduism. It is Guadeloupean Hinduism because it corresponds to a historic, a social, and economic reality which it is not, you can't find in the other countries. So that was a few things I would like to say. The other thing is that why the pujas take place only on Sundays, because they must be done only when they were not working. The Indians, the Hindus, weren't allowed to practice their religions every day as they could do it in Trinidad, that they could do it everywhere else. So they had to do it in private. They had to be hidden to do it. So these are things you have to understand. And I think I repeat that the main difference is that you were British colonies and the British authorities were, I would say, less hard than the French authorities. And this difference, I think, is very important to understand how we manage above all to keep our heritage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mansami. The British was also very harsh, and so Christianization.
Less than the French.
Chris, perhaps not, and we've been told as well from a few people in Suriname that the Dutch were brutal, more brutal than the British, but maybe we need to do a comparison on that in another program. So ladies and gentlemen, we have several people waiting to ask questions, and I have Lucien Sakarabani, Jocelyn Sakarabani, who have not had any opportunity to say anything. And so I'm going to give them the floor now. Jan, can you please go ahead and coordinate that? Thank you. So those of you all with your hands up, I do acknowledge you. Please just hold. Thank you. Noor, can you unmute them, please?
Yeah, they are unmuted.
Great.
Oui.
Vas-y.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Est-ce que tout le
Yes.
monde m'entend?
Ok.
Oui. Voilà, simplement, je voudrais parler un peu des Indiens de la Martinique, parce que c'est vrai que Yann a fait un bref historique de l'histoire de l'arrivée des Indiens en Martinique, mais moi, j'aimerais vous parler un petit peu de l'action culturelle aussi qui est faite en Martinique depuis environ une quarantaine d'années.
So she's saying that me, Jan, I did a presentation on the historic aspect, but she also wants to speak about what we're doing recently.
Alors, s'il est vrai que les Indiens en Martinique ont pu avoir aussi une intégration sociale de plus en plus importante et ils sont dans tous les domaines. Nous avons qui sont dans les professions libérales. Et pour quitter la plantation, qu'est-ce qu'ils ont fait? Ils sont devenus des artisans. Donc, beaucoup ont embrassé des carrières de professions libérales comme le transport, le petit commerce, mais aussi ils ont pu acquérir des terres et devenir des agriculteurs. Donc, ils ne sont pas restés longtemps sur les habitations et dès les années 50, ils se sont mis à leur compte. Donc, c'est pour cette raison, le transport en Martinique, le transport touristique et le transport de personnes, le transport scolaire sont faits par des Indiens en Martinique. Alors, en dehors de cela,
Okay, so for the Indians, the way for them to get out of the plantations were to start creating enterprises and activities that they could do by themselves. That's the reason why nowadays the transportation, especially in tourism, in the tourism field, is a very Indian represented field in Martinique, as well as scholar transportation. And we have a lot of Indians that became doctors, lawyers, and stuff like that, and professors also.
alors, l'histoire des Indiens de la Guadeloupe et de la Martinique, il y a des similarités, mais aussi des différences. Il est vrai que les Indiens de Martinique n'ont pas pu être propriétaires très tôt. Il y en a quelques-uns dans les années 30 qui ont pu acquérir des terres, mais très peu, parce que la force des béquets, les béquets étaient vraiment, ne lâchaient pas les terres. Donc, les Indiens ont pu acquérir des terres dans les années 50-60.
Even though there are some similarities between the history of Guadeloupe and Martinique, in Martinique, the access to owning land was much later and only started in the 50s.
Les béquets gardaient les
because the béquets, which were the estate owners, hang on to the land very late, and they only started selling the land much later than in Guadeloupe, for example. And also in Guadeloupe, the béquet situation is very different because historically, when the slavery was abolished in Guadeloupe, they killed all the béquets. They cut the head of all the béquets in Guadeloupe, which was not the case in Martinique. And as a result, the béquet case is still enduring to this day. And they completely locked down the economy in Martinique in a lot of fields. So the access to owning land appeared much later in Martinique for this reason.
Alors, en ce qui concerne les danses, euh, les Indiens ont gardé leur danse et comme disait le professeur de danse qui a parlé auparavant, Annick, nous avons gardé en effet les nadrons. Et les nadrons se pratiquent encore dans beaucoup de communes, notamment dans les communes du Nord, et c'est de plus en plus vivace parce que beaucoup de jeunes maintenant rentrent dans des associations, apprennent aussi à pratiquer le culte, apprennent à faire les tapous, apprennent à battre le tambour, apprennent les nadrons. Mais à côté de cela, il y a aussi la danse indienne, la danse classique du sud de l'Inde qu'on appelle le Bharatanatyam. Et au CERMAC, dans le centre culturel de Fort-de-France, le grand centre culturel de Fort-de-France, depuis environ une cinquantaine d'années, les jeunes apprennent la danse indienne.
As far as the dances, in Martinique, we also have the nadron that we taught very early on. But we also have the classical dance from South India, the Bharatanatyam, that has been taught in Martinique in the CERMAC, which is the cultural center of Fort-de-France, for 50 years now.
Et puis, il faut dire aussi que ce patrimoine indien est de plus en plus reconnu. Alors, pour les commémorations, puisque nous commémorons chaque année, depuis une vingtaine d'années, l'arrivée des Indiens, il y a des grandes fêtes. Et l'année dernière, en 2023, il y a environ, la majorité des communes ont fêté l'arrivée des Indiens, les 170 ans de l'arrivée des Indiens.
Also, the different cities and towns in Martinique are commemorating each year the coming of the first Indian immigrants, and every year you have a fest organized, especially in the north of the island.
Aussi. In the center aussi.
And in the center also, in the center of the island also.
In the south also.
In the whole island, there are fests commemorating the coming of the first Indian immigrants, and it's a big event each year.
Et les Martiniquais sont conscients que les Indiens ont apporté une richesse à cette culture, à la culture martiniquaise. Ils sont conscients de cela. Et aujourd'hui, nous intervenons dans les écoles, dans les bibliothèques, dans les associations, dans les communes lors des fêtes patronales pour présenter des danses, mais pour présenter aussi nos plats, notre cuisine, pour présenter aussi nos plantes, mais nous intervenons aussi au niveau du yoga parce que la Journée internationale du yoga, nous la fêtons dans plusieurs communes. Donc, l'Inde avec sa médecine, l'Inde avec ses danses, fait partie aussi de la richesse de la Martinique. Et nous continuerons à faire connaître cette culture-là.
Okay. The people from Martinique are very much aware of how much India contributed to the way of life in Martinique. We, as far as Gopio, we do we work with the schools, the libraries to present the Indian culture, the Indian cooking, the plants, the medicine. We organize also a yoga day each year, and we organize also meetings allowing people from the Indian diaspora from other islands and other countries to come and show in Martinique what they are doing elsewhere. And it's very alive, very much alive.
Alors, ce que je voulais vous dire, it's difficult to me to speak English, but it's since the several years, I communicate with Trinidad, with Bob Ramhoop, and it's a pleasure to see him and to communicate with Trinidad and Tobago. Excuse my English is not so good, parce que I see. Ce que je voulais vous dire, les relations entre la Martinique et Trinidad sont de fort longue date. Et les premiers Indiens d'origine, les premiers hommes des Indiens qui sont venus travailler en Martinique revenaient de Trinidad. Les 100 premiers travailleurs indiens qui sont arrivés en Martinique venaient de Trinidad.
Okay, Justine really wanted to emphasize how close we are with our Indian brethren from Trinidad and Tobago. She wanted to shout out Bob Ramwood, which is a very close friend of the Indian cause in Martinique. And also she wanted to underline the fact that the 101st Indian workers that came to Martinique came actually from Trinidad. They came to Trinidad first and then they came to Martinique.
Ce qui fait que Trinidad et Martinique, nous avons des relations de longue date. Et nous avons des écrits qui racontent des histoires où des Indiens de Martinique, notamment une femme indienne, a quitté la Martinique pour aller vivre à Trinidad. Et nous avons des petits Martiniquais, des fois, qui ont été adoptés par des Trinidadiens. Donc, dans les écrits, on retrouve ces traces-là.
And the close ties between Martinique and Trinidad have been documented. We have young kids that have been adopted, young Indian kids that have been adopted from Martinique to Trinidad. They came into Trinidadian families and vice versa.
Qu'est-ce que je peux dire encore? Donc, je vous félicite pour cette manifestation. Je vous félicite pour ces échanges qui sont importantes, d'autant plus qu'il est difficile aujourd'hui de pouvoir venir chez vous, vous faire venir, parce qu'il y a des difficultés au niveau des transports aériens.
And Justine also wanted to congratulate everyone involved in organizing such an event. It's very important that we keep doing these events, especially online, because traveling from Martinique to Trinidad has become very difficult in recent years. We had a company, an airline company that used to do that had flights allowing us to go from Martinique to Trinidad very easily. It's no longer the case. Bob here can vouch for how difficult it was for him and his delegation to come to Martinique when they came a few months back. It's very, very difficult. You have to hop between islands, take different flights, wait between each flight an ungodly amount of hours. It's very tedious. So such initiatives are very, very important and very helpful in maintaining our relationships with each other.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lucien. Thank you very much, Jan. This is the reason why we decided to host the program with Martinique and Guadeloupe, because so few people know that we have Indians who speak French. We do have other Indians who speak French in Reunion, Seychelles, and Mauritius, and so on, and we will be having a program with them later on in March. We still have a number of people waiting to ask questions. Ashok, go ahead, please.
Ils vont organiser d'autres réunions comme ça.
Ashok?
Okay, thank you. I have visited Guadeloupe and Martinique and had a wonderful time there meeting many people, including the son of Saddam Baran, the human rights fighter, Eli Shidaloo, Fred Nigrid, Luciane. Hello, Luciane, how are you? Diana Ramasamy, John Sahai, and others. Couple of questions. I know we have had a similar problem with Reunion Island. What is the status of obtaining a OCI/OIC cards for descendants of Indians in Guadeloupe and Martinique? Because
Okay, Ashok.
I know many of the
Ashok?
Yes.
Ashok, we are getting reports that your volume is a little bit low. Could you repeat that question a little bit louder, please? Thanks.
Okay. What is the status of the OCI/OIC cards for people in Guadeloupe and Martinique? Because many of the records are missing, and we have been trying similarly with Reunion Island, and I'd like to know what progress there has been up to now.
Okay, let's get a response to that. Jan, can you all respond to that? What is the progress with the OCI cards? Overseas citizens of India.
I can answer if you want.
Thank you, Fabrice. Yes.
Alors, this year, we have some ministers from India and the ambassador also. They came to Guadeloupe because they want to give us the SCI card, but they want to see by themselves what proof if we are really Indian. Because as you say, in government of India, they know now they have Indian in Guadeloupe, but they want to see our documents.
Good.
So they make 2 trips last month and in December also to visit Guadeloupe institution. And we go together by the archive, where we have all the archive where they are. And this is in progress. And I think this month, the French president will be visiting India on the 26th. And what's going to happen, as I know, Indian government will say they are going to give us the OCI card, but they need to change the law in India because they don't have a decree to, they have to make another law to give us the OCI card. So they're going to speak on that and to change the law. And after the process, we have to prove, we have to give proof we are ancestors from India. And after that proof, the commission will examine it, and after we can get the card. But this is what's going to be taken in the next 3-4 months now.
Okay, Fabrice, thank you very much for that. Uncle Sham, go ahead with your question, please. Can you unmute? You're still muted.
He had to unmute.
How about now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I just want to throw in a little thing about the PIO and OCI. Well, I don't think there's PIO anymore. It's OCI card. I think one of the problems that might be faced, and maybe that's what the government of India might do, is the amount of generations. Like you must be of a great grandchild or grandchild or child of an Indian immigrant. And because of the time that it ended in Martinique and Guadeloupe indentureship, there might be a problem of finding people who meet that qualification. That's just one part of I wasn't planning to say anything on that. I don't have a question, but I would just like to make a few points very, very quickly, and there might be questions coming in because I know the time is almost up. One of the things is that on my visit to India, to Martinique, I wasn't fortunate to go to Guadeloupe. I noticed that something that came up in my mind is that what I saw with the archives in Trinidad is that there are returnees here in Trinidad who came from any part of the diaspora you could think about. People who were once indentured there and then indentured to Trinidad after. What I noticed with Martinique and the rest of the Caribbean Indian diaspora countries is that many, I wouldn't say many, but a fair amount of people came from those places to Trinidad after, not under indentureship, by local or Caribbean immigration. What we need to do is to find out where those people came from, who were their ancestors who arrived in those colonies, at the time colonies, and what can we do to find their documentation, because we are lacking in that documentation as far as genealogy is concerned. You know, we might find people coming from Martinique to Trinidad, but I'm talking about not those who went back to India and then came indentured to Trinidad. I'm talking those who came directly from Martinique, Guadeloupe, and the other Caribbean diaspora countries to Trinidad. So we have a problem there. I don't know if there could be a solution in those countries. Now, I was also very intrigued when I went to Martinique to speak to the president of the Indian Association there, Mr. Poonama. What I was intrigued about is something that in Trinidad we kind of find strange, because Mr. Poonama didn't look Indian at all. He was part Indian. And I have a feeling that the people of Indian origin in Trinidad could trace would not only be that 40 or 42% that is bandied about, but we must be close to about 65% based on my work in genealogy. Because at any stage in genealogy, up to now, up to this morning, I was tracing some people who are not of total Indian background, if you follow what I mean, because we are a mixed country, a mixed population, and we should not deny those people who are not pure Indian, so to speak, from seeking their Indian heritage. Because Barack Obama sought his Irish identity. So too did Muhammad Ali, the boxer. They looked at their Irish identity as well. And unfortunately, some of our African brothers and sisters in Trinidad look more at the European ancestry rather than their African and also Indian genealogy as well. So ours is a very mixed population, and we must, I welcome suggestions as to how we could go about breaking that kind of barrier and open up India to the rest of the population of Trinidad and Tobago, and also the whole of the Caribbean area. And also we need to set up some kind of system whereby we could get those people who migrated from the other Caribbean, those Indian people who migrated from the other Caribbean islands like Martinique, Guadeloupe, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, St. Kitts, and so on. How did they migrate, and have a kind of listing of all of that for the sake of Caribbean genealogy, for the sake of some of our documentation that is missing. So we can't get that precious village in India, because if they came on the Main of 96, or if our ancestors came on the Rhine of 93, or the Castle Howard of 61, and I could go on giving you quite a lot. We don't have the ship registers of those, which would have the actual village from which they came. So hopefully some of those ancestors who came via the islands, perhaps some of those islands might have the immigration passes. I know Jamaica has. I was able to get a fair amount in Jamaica. But in the other colonies, I didn't get too much, and we need to set up that system as well. So Kumar, while we are setting up this Caribbean connection, so to speak, let us not forget genealogy and that aspect of it, where people came here probably to get Dullaha and Dullahins for their children and so on, whatever the reason. But people did come from the islands to Trinidad. Thank you very much, Shalimar. Sorry to take so much time.
That's all right. Very valuable contribution there. Thank you so much for raising it. Let's have a question from Mr. Dwarka.
Thank you very much, Shalina. I want to especially, I'm sorry I joined a little bit late. I came from a team building exercise at the NCIC, where I've been a director for the last 30 years with Bob Ramroop. And I want to recognize the work Bob has been doing, he and Kanhai Kangal in particular. And I know Dr. Mahabir is aware of this. In reaching out to Martinique and Guadeloupe in particular, the NCIC has been doing this. I also want to express my gratitude to Shamsuddin, who helped me to trace my own ancestors in Allahabad, Ramnagar in India in 2007. And I listening to this and I'm seeing similarities, because I came from a village in Trinidad called Gandhi Village. Half of the village was from South India, Madrasi. And I could identify with a lot of those being said by our brothers and sisters from Guadeloupe, And I also studied in Jamaica. And I remember as a student, we would look forward to invitations, for Diwali celebration. We would go to Mr. Jagai's place on the farm. And for the first time, I found it very amusing that the person who was officiating at a Hindu festival, Diwali, was the Maulvi, who was a Muslim. But he knew the prayers. And that was quite okay. I found that to be very interesting. So that I come back to what Shamsuddin is, and I want to saying that, we need to recognize the proliferation of the East Indian, the Indian element in our populations. That, even myself, who am staunch Indian and all of that, but because my wavy hair as a young man, I got mistaken for Afro-Trinidadian a lot of time, until my grandmother had to correct somebody for saying that I was Afro-Trinidadian. So that's an important element that we need to recognize as well, that we have a mixture, a cosmopolitan society. And I want to thank you all for hosting this forum for us to express these thoughts.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Dwarka. Let's take a question from Ran.
Can you hear me, Shalima?
Yes, hearing you.
Sorry, my name's Sean from Reed, but that's fine. It's my fault. Great discussion. Really interesting this evening. It's been great. Really kinds of things have been put in the chat. It's they say that was conversions of the Indian immigrants to Catholicism. It's strange because in France itself, they've had a massive battle between church and state, which the state won. France imposes a very extreme form of secularism, laicism, where you cannot manifest any religious symbols in public places as being, especially on the Muslim hijab. So, what I found was that in the colonies, and yes, Martinique, Guadeloupe as well, they were pushing Roman Catholicism, but at the same time in France, were they pushing secularism and laicism and anti-clerical ideology? Was that not exported to the French West Indies as well?
We can answer that. Can you hear us, Rogan?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
You're right when you say that the France is very much promoting laicism, but that's now. That's been recently. At the time of the colonies, the French government was still very much into the Catholic religion, and they were heavily pushing it on their colonies. That was a tool. The Catholic religion was actually a tool for them to I don't know how to say it, to make these people submissive. That was a way for them to control the masses, to make them subservient, to make them not to compel them into not rebelling much. So that was definitely a part of colonization, this heavy pushing of the Catholic religion. But you're right when you say that eventually France evolved and they started pushing a laic agenda afterwards. But so it's two pages of the same history. One is not excluding the other. They just happened at different times. I will also, I hope that answers your question. I will take this opportunity to also answer another question that I saw on the chat regarding the Creole patois. Yes, we are speaking Creole patois in Guadeloupe and in Martinique. Both are similar, even though there are some slight differences between the two. But the people from Guadeloupe can easily understand the Creole from Martinique and vice versa. And you're right. Indian words became part of the spoken language with words as you said, like kalalu, zabuka, and stuff like that became part of the Creole and that are also used in the common French also. Lucienne wanted to say a few words about the OCI card. I will translate for her. Vas-y, Lucienne. Si tu peux parler.
Je peux parler. Vous m'entendez? Est-ce qu'elle m'entend? Vous m'entendez?
Oui,
Donc,
on vous entend.
on m'entend. Alors, ce que je voulais dire pour la carte OCI, c'est que j'ose espérer qu'on l'aura pour au mois de juillet, pour la bonne raison que j'étais à Paris au mois de juillet et le Premier ministre, il a dit que la Réunion et l'île Maurice bénéficient déjà de cette carte et qu'ils vont alléger un peu les procédures pour que la Martinique et la Guadeloupe puissent avoir cette carte. Donc, je ne sais pas, on attend pour voir le mois de juillet, parce que je pense que ce qui causait d'énormes difficultés, c'était que nous puissions retrouver les actes de naissance de nos ancêtres. Mais je crois qu'avec l'éruption de la montagne Pelée, on a expliqué qu'il y a beaucoup de papiers qui ont été perdus. Voilà, donc j'espère que d'ici juillet, on aura peut-être, on verra pour bénéficier de la carte OCI. Donc je vous... Oui, ok.
Okay, so Lucienne was pointing out she was in Paris recently and she got some news. Apparently, the OCI card is already in place in Réunion and Mauritius, and they are in work. They are in talks with the Indian government to lighten the requirements from the French Caribbean to accelerate the process and allow us to benefit from this also as soon as possible. In Martinique, we had the eruption of the Pelée Mountain, the Pelée Mount, in 1902, which destroyed a lot of archives. So it might be more difficult for us in Martinique to trace back our lineage and our ancestry, but there are talks with the Indian government to find ways to circumvent that and to allow the people that do not necessarily have access to the paperwork proving their ancestry to find a way to benefit from the OCI card eventually.
Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
I could add something?
Oliver, very quickly, please. Yes.
Yes. About the card, as it has been said, the archives in Guadeloupe were burned. I don't remember what time exactly, but it was in the beginning of the 20th century, and it was not an accident. So it is very difficult to prove the Indian descent, and that is why most of people who are struggling for having this card now are saying that they must find an agreement between the Indian authorities and the French authorities to put the procedure lighter, so that they don't ask us so much to prove that we are from Indian descent. What I would say about this card personally, that is my personal opinion. I don't make of this card an emergency or a very urgent necessity. I think it depends on what this card will be dedicated to do. What will we do with it? It's not a priority or an emergency for me. So, but it is my personal opinion. Maybe it's not the place or the day today to debate. Concerning the problem of the land, Mr. Zobda talked about, of course, there is a difference between Martinique and Guadeloupe about the owning of lands. In Guadeloupe, in the 60s or maybe before, there have been struggles against the Békés for owning the lands, and many lands have been given back to the people who work them. And that time many Indians have been allowed to buy a lot of land. So this can explain the different situation between Martinique and Guadeloupe. And as someone asked about why, if we should understand the movement of people between Trinidad and Martinique, as Mrs. Sakrabani said, I don't know, but I think there is we could think about something. The origin of Trinidad Patois. The origin of Trinidad Patois is linked with the history of the Békés from Martinique and Trinidad. When slave owners from Martinique went to Trinidad. So maybe we could imagine that we have to be sure to see if this continued after abolition of slavery, and maybe some went to Trinidad also with their indentured laborers. That's just an idea I give. I'm not sure, but I think we could think about it too.
Certainly. Excellent point for further research. I want to thank you all very much. Unfortunately, we have to bring it to a close for today. We've already gone over by 17 minutes. And really, very, very enlightening program today. So I want to thank Mr. Bob Ramroop for helping us to pull together today's panel. We've had excellent presentations from Jan Zobda representing Lucien Sakarabani and Jocelyn Sakarabani Tele from Martinique. We also had Fabrice Subdan, Olivier Munsami, and Anik Raghuber with excellent presentations from Guadeloupe. It has been extraordinary and extraordinarily enlightening, and I thank you all very much. Thank you as well to Dr. Kumar Mahabir for adding his bit from his visits to Guadeloupe. Really appreciate this. And we look forward to having you all join us again on future programs. And just to let you all know, we will have another French program coming on in March, and this time we will be featuring people like our good friend from Mauritius. I'm seeing Mr. Naga here, and we have quite a few people from Reunion and so on. So looking forward to that. I want to thank you all as well for extending condolences to us on the death anniversary of our dear mother. Thank you very much to you all. Your kindness is really appreciated. Okay, let me turn you all over now to Shakira.
Thank you, Anne. We want to thank everyone for joining us today, and especially to the participants. And we want to thank our advisory and planning team led by Dr. Kumar Mahabir, our IT manager behind the scenes, Robin Ramsing, and also to Miriam Mohammed for producing our TikTok videos. Our topic next Sunday will be Indian heritage in Grenada in the Caribbean. So please visit our YouTube channel to see all our past recordings. I am Shakira Mohammed saying goodbye. May God bless you all. Daniel.
Merci beaucoup.